And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Reminding you once again, we'll be at Stanton Healthcare tomorrow for their pre-grand opening. Grand opening will be Sunday at 3 in Meridian on East Franklin Road. Hope that you can join us not only tomorrow during the show, but Sunday at 3 p.m. Going to be a lot of dignitaries really supporting, the life movement. We're very privileged to be a part of it. And speaking of being a part of it, did you stay up late last night and watch the big debates, or did you just kind of hang out and do your own thing? I don't know. Maybe you, I guess Les Mis is in town. If you went to the Morrison Center, which made you more miserable, Les Mis or the miserable Democrats?
Look, we all watched his testimony. I read the report. There are 10 clear incidents of obstruction of justice by this president, and he needs to be held accountable. I've seen people go to prison for far less. And the reality of it is that we have a person in the White House right now who has been shielded by a memo in the United States Department of Justice that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. I believe the American people are right to say there should be consequence and accountability for everyone, and no one is above the law, including the President of the United States.
Oh, is it me, or does Kamala Harris appear to be angry? More on that coming up. Plus, don't forget, Girls with Guns 2019. Available now, KIDO Talk Radio app and the KIDO Talk Radio website, brought to you by Independence Indoor Shooting. Joining us now to talk a little bit about the economic reports, to get the real skinny behind last night's debate and the numbers. What do they mean? Are more people working? Are we at full employment, or are more people working more jobs? Elaine Parker, Chief Communications Officer with the Jobs Creators Network, joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Elaine, good morning. Good to have you back.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, take a look at the state of America. You got politicians on both sides, some touting how great the economy is. That seems to be indisputable. But does that equate to everybody has one worker, one job, or are more people doing more jobs? What are your thoughts, ma'am?
The reality is, when you look at the jobs numbers, we are seeing more Americans come off the sidelines. We are seeing our labor participation rate fall. We are increased. We're seeing the lowest unemployment rate we've had in 50 years. Can we continue improving? Does everybody need to continue having an opportunity and a chance? Yes. And that's why the policies that we have had for the last 2.5 years or so are so important to continue. And, you mentioned the Democratic debates last night. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, but I am. And when I listen to those candidates speak about the economy, it's like watching Bizarro World. I mean, what reality are they living in? The numbers speak for themselves. It's just an inconvenient truth for them when they're on stage and talking about how people are barely getting by and things like that. I mean, there are more jobs out there than people to fill them. We have a skills gap. We need workforce development programs to get these people into all of these jobs that exist. It's incredible to me.
It is. And, Elaine, you take a look at Seinfeld, and you remember the one where Jerry didn't mean to offend everybody, but everybody was offended. The postman who was Asian, the young lady who was Native American. And it really is a microcosm of what our society has become. Going off into the rabbit hole here for a moment, that we've all become offended. We've all become outraged. We've all become this. So again, Jerry Seinfeld just must have had some type of creative barometer into the future on what our society has become. You couldn't do Seinfeld today because we've become so politically correct.
I know. I miss Seinfeld and how he was able to take those subjects and really make them relatable and then blow them up and exaggerate them so crazy. It is amazing. I mean, people are very sensitive today, and we do need to be sensitive about other people's feelings, and I understand all of that. But watching what these people are saying on stage and listening to the policies, I mean, this economy is roaring like we haven't seen it, and wages are rising at a rate that we haven't seen in a decade. And the interesting thing is the people whose wages are rising the fastest are the bottom 10% wage earners. We're seeing blue-collar workers rise faster than supervisory worker wages. So basically, white-collar workers their wages aren't rising as fast as blue-collar. And you listen to the candidates on stage, and it sounds like just the opposite. The numbers speak for themselves. They're not made up. They're not fake news. It actually is happening, and every demographic is benefiting as well. Women are disproportionately benefiting from this economy. Blacks, Asians, Hispanics are all at record low unemployment. And like I said, we have actually 7.6 million unfilled jobs. We only have about 5.5 million people out there unemployed. So we have a huge skills gap, and a huge opportunity to identify people who are in jobs that maybe at minimum wage, and identify those people and get them skills training through some of the workforce development programs that not only the administration is championing, but Ivanka Trump is championing and working with employers throughout the country. But we're seeing those wages go up just voluntarily. I mean, look at Walmart, look at Target. They have voluntarily increased their wages into the $12 to $15 an hour wages for their starting wages because they can't get people to fill the jobs. And they did that voluntarily. It wasn't because the government told them they had to. That's our free market system. That's how it should be working. It's because the demand for labor is up. You've got to pay more to get the right labor and attract people who want to stay.
Elaine Parker joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. She's with the Job Creators Network. Let's talk a little bit about the future of employment. You've got Andrew Wang last night saying we're all going to be replaced by robots. You have AI. What do you make of that as someone who's a champion of American workers and working Americans? Your thoughts on the AI disruption that people say is inevitable, particularly for blue collar Americans, whether it's the factory jobs or the truck driving jobs, which are really good paying jobs, and a lot of folks have been drawn to and make a great living doing.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think just technology itself is probably going to move us in that direction. But because of that, it will continue to create additional jobs because we're going to need people to build that AI and to install that AI and maintain it. So as certain jobs go away, because AI may replace it, we're going to see other jobs created. But that's the skills gap. That's the training and the workforce development that we need to focus on. But I think we will see that the AI and we'll see jobs go away that we didn't plan on as we see wage mandates come into play because employers, are going to have to make decisions where, if the wage mandates continue rising, the House last week passed $15 an hour federal minimum wage. And immediately you heard congressional folks out there on the Democratic side saying, hey, 15 is great, but let's do 20 now. It just, when is it going to stop? And it is going to impact jobs. And the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, when they put out the report on the $15 an hour minimum wage, it came out and said up to 3.7 million people are going to lose their jobs under a $15 an hour minimum wage. So you just can't keep ignoring those kinds of facts. You have to address what the real underlying problem is, and that's that we have a skills gap.
Indeed. What do you make of the move with the minimum wage? That was a big applause getter last night.
Like I said, people who are going to be hurt, the studies show that the vast majority of the people who are in minimum wage jobs are teenagers and young people who are likely in part-time jobs or going to school or something like that. There are 82 million hourly workers in the country. And of that 82 million, there's about 163,000 people that are over the age of 25 making minimum wage. That's 0.2% of that population. We can identify those people. We can train those people. We can get them into better paying jobs. You've got this fight for 15 out there across the country. Well, what good does it do if you make $15 an hour, but you're still, and you're 35 years old and you're still flipping burgers at McDonald's? You haven't gained any more skills and you haven't made yourself more valuable to an employer. We have a campaign called Fight for 50, and that's $50,000 a year careers, because there's a lot of jobs out there that are right in that mid-range, middle income jobs that require, a certificate or a 2-year degree that they can get into, from a dental hygienist, to plumbers or electricians or journeyman electricians where people can get into very good paying jobs and develop skills that they can take with them for a lifetime and make them more valuable to employers. These wage mandates don't make them more valuable to employers.
Indeed. And of course, then you have the move towards AI, and that isn't good for people just trying to get into the job market. Elaine Parker, if people want more information, want to learn about the Job Creators Network, want to learn about a job, what can they do, ma'am?
They can go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com.
Well, we appreciate you. And any big winners last night?
I actually just hope that the American people win in November.
Boy, you're on message there. I tried to get you into that partisan thing, but you didn't bite. Take care, Elaine. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kristen Gillibrand outed herself as a person of white privilege last night.
That it's the responsibility of Corey and Kamala to be the only voice that takes on these issues of institutional racism, systemic racism in our country. I think as a white woman of privilege who is a U.S. Senator running for President of the United States, it is also my responsibility to lift over those voices that aren't being listened to. And I can talk to those white women in the suburbs that voted for Trump and explain to them what white privilege actually is. That when their son is walking down a street with a bag of M&Ms in his pocket, wearing a hoodie, his whiteness is what protects him from not being shot. When their child has a car that breaks down and he knocks on someone's door for help and the door opens and the help is given, it's his whiteness that protects him from being shot. That is what white privilege in America is today. And so my responsibility is to not only lift up those stories, but explain to communities across America, like I did in Youngstown, Ohio, to a young mother, that this is all of our responsibilities.
There we have it, white privilege. Did anybody know about white privilege a year ago, 2 years ago? How about those people that live in poverty that are white? Do they have the white privilege? And I didn't know that police are automatically going to go after people, minorities, wearing hoodies. If that were the case, with the illogical thinking of the Democrats last night, we would have more people being shot, more people being killed. Instead, you have minority on minority crime that is ignored by the media, ignored by the politicians. And what scared the heck out of me last night is if any one of these jabronis is elected, and I say that with all due respect because in Idaho we don't like to personally attack people, and I'm still working on making my way into the gem state and everything else. If any one of these characters, usual suspects, is elected, we're going to go back to the federal government having a war on police. You heard it last night. If you didn't, if you had a life, if you went out hiking, if you had a good time, great. But you hear these people saying, well, we're gonna fire people, and there's going to be no presumption of innocence. There's going to be no due process for police officers. And by the way, if you're on the zombie patrol right now, maybe you're driving Uber, maybe you're driving a cab, maybe you're a police officer. These are kind of the mysterious hours, right, where we go from night to day, and you're thinking, man, a couple more hours, I can go home, go to bed. Before I get that big electric bill, as Ray and I were talking about earlier today. This is kind of just the weird that we're in flux, just getting up. This is the transitional hours, if you will. But here you have a major Democratic candidate saying that she is a person of privilege. That all of a sudden, I guess if you're white, you're born 75 steps ahead. So if that's the case, what about affirmative action? See, these issues are just plain divisive. And quite frankly, I was a little disappointed in Kristen Gillibrand last night when she said that she's going to Clorox the White House and that we need to have a Justice Department that does their job. Really? Tell that to the families that lost people during Fast and Furious. And, well, I'll get to that. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Would love to hear what you have to say about round two of the Democrats' Clash of the Libs. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
We can no longer allow a white nationalist to be in the White House, number one. And number two.
There you have it. Washington Governor Jay Inslee doing the Northwest proud.
First of all, the president is a racist, and that was just one more example of it. We know that whether it's Baltimore or cities like Detroit, they have They're tremendously rich in history and culture and also in possibility.
There's Julian Going Nowhere Castro last night as well. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you, right? Taking your feedback last night over the big debate. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. By the way, a woman who's turned 107 shares her secret to longevity. You ready for this? Don't get married. I think that's a little late for most of us. David in Nampa, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, David.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I feel like a mosquito at a nudist camp. I know what I have to do, but there's so much material. Just getting on Kamala Harris and this whole thing, they knew this was a lie from the get-go. So what this was a 2-year perjury trap in which people had to pay hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And I won't go through all the abuses. The SWAT team that came out to this dangerous man, and then they let him bond out, which is he signs his name. You know, because I don't want to. When she says the president committed crimes, about 30 years ago, I think it was a husband and wife, but I don't remember the husband. They had a break-in, and they called the cops. The cops, they came in, they said, look by the wall, because there's a wall separating their houses. It's a big house with a wall around it next to theirs. They said you can see in the dirt the impressions of a ladder. Obviously, somebody from the next house put a ladder down, came down, took our stuff, and they said, yeah, that's a consul's residence. That house is foreign soil. We can't go in there. Why is there an investigation? Well, again, it was a 2-year perjury trap, which basically destroyed people's lives. How many? General Flynn lost his marriage, lost his wife, lost $1.5 million. And when they said, we're going to do this to your son, he said, no mas. I will be Chief Joseph 150 years later. I will fight no more forever. He pled guilty. I'll eat bologna sandwiches for a year or whatever, or just give a guilty plea. And now they say he was convicted. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They're just horrible, horrible people. They want to bootstrap an impeachment. That's basically what. Okay, you want to bootstrap an impeachment? There are procedures. You have the House open an inquiry of an impeachment, but you don't bootstrap an impeachment like the cops who looked at the prints and they said, it's foreign soil, we can't investigate. And let me tell you something about Trump. There's a thing. First of all, how do you have obstruction when there's no crime? There is a thing called the psychological wall of truth. Have you ever heard of it?
Sure.
If you didn't steal the cookie from the cookie jar, and you're being grilled by the cops, come on, cookie thief, admit it. Eventually, you're going to shut down, okay? And you're going to say, I didn't do it. Why are you wasting my time? Why are you wasting your time? Go find the real cookie thief, okay? That's called a psychological wall of truth. Trump knows he didn't do it. He grouses, and, he didn't clear him. Yeah, it's not his job. I said this before. It's not his job to clear him. And by saying that, he put him in a court where he can never clear his name. Okay, you are innocent till proven guilty. But how many times in the past 30 years have the left made up laws? Like that kid who makes up a law, when he's losing. Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you there's another rule in the game. That's who they are. They're the kid who never got shot because he had a bulletproof vest or he had a force field or you missed him. They are that kid. They are that kid. They make up rules when it suits them. They talk about the rule of law. They wouldn't know the rule of law if it walked up, pumped their hand and said, hi, I'm the rule of law.
Well, and you take a look at DACA, and DACA is made up. David, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. And back to your phone calls about the issues that matter to you. Brian in Nampa, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Brian.
Are Democrats this stupid? Can you hear me?
I can.
Let's use their own logic against them. Okay, if white privilege is an issue, which I don't agree with, but let's just say it is, why are you running for president? How many people on the Democratic Party would be eliminated because they're white? Number two, Camille Harris, or whatever her name is, she can't own a gun because she admits she smokes dope, but she can have armed security guards and run for president of the United States. She wants reparations. Okay, your ancestors were slave owners. How come you get to run as president of the United States? I just don't get where these people get their logic from. If you want to hold everybody else accountable to these standards, then hold yourself to them. Like we talked about yesterday, lead by the front. You don't want the American people to have guns? Fine, you don't get armed security. You don't get a gun. You don't get anybody around you to have a gun to protect you. That's how simple this is. And the last caller is right. They're that kid. They want to tell everybody else what to do, but they don't want to do it.
Right.
I'm sick. I didn't even watch it all. I watched pieces of it, but it just makes me so sick that this is, the Democratic Party used to be really, really bad back in the day. And then they kind of cleaned their act up. We even had Democratic people here in Idaho that my parents voted for. And they were pretty decent people, but they've gone so down the toilet drain. I'm just wondering, is there so much of our country that are this stupid and falling for this con job?
Well, I think we're about to find out. Brian, God bless. We appreciate you. Doug, Liberty Linda, and Bill, you're next. We want to hear from you this morning and every morning. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Hey, Doug.
This is a threat to our freedom of speech, and it's an important thing for us all to stand united in calling out and to protect, because whether you're a Democrat or Republican or on the left or on the right, for a big tech monopoly to have this power, this affects all of us.
Tulsi Gabbard last night, part of the great Day 2 Democratic debates. We'll have more of your calls next. Doug, Liberty, Linda, Hank, hang on the line. We will hear from you. But first, we're going to hear from Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. And, wow, what a night.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Yeah,
morning.
It was Joe Biden having to fend off a lot of attacks from his opponents. But it wasn't just Joe Biden on the defense. It was Senator Kamala Harris. She's bearing the mantle of being one of the front runners now, and she really took it on the chin from Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, who called out her record during her tenure as California's Attorney General, saying that she put away 1,500 people for smoking marijuana and then laughed about it. So,
Boy, that was
Kamala Harris.
That was pretty effective last night. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I saw that, and Kamala was like dishing it out. This is the first time she actually took it.
That's right. Because she has risen in the polls. So that seems to be the curse of being one of the top candidates, is that everyone else comes after you. It's like a chicken coop. They all come after you at the same time. So it was Joe Biden, it was Kamala Harris on defense, whereas others were coming at them, like Julian Castro, former HUD secretary under President Obama, attacked Joe Biden about President Obama's record on deportations. Interestingly, Biden kind of invoked executive privilege on that one and said he wouldn't discuss conversations he'd had with the president at the time and dodged it that way. But it's so fascinating to see how policies just 8 years ago are now an anathema, and it makes you wonder if some of these more progressive candidates even want the endorsement of President Obama.
Well, you wonder, they were attacking former President Obama, who has a 97% approval rating with Democrats, instead of President Trump. And, I thought Joe Biden, my own personal opinion, when he said, look, I'm not going to discuss what I said to the president. To me, in an era where everybody is trying so hard to say anything to get their poll numbers up, I thought Biden showed some character there. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, real restraint. I think that Biden did better than the first debate, but the bar was kind of set low. There were moments when he kind of meandered and ended his statements by anyway. And at the very end, I think in his closing statement, he seemed to confuse his website with a text message. He said, "Go to Joe 30330." I'm not sure what that was, but by and large, I think that Biden did pretty well and probably maintain his front runner status. I wouldn't be surprised if Tulsi Gabbard moves up in the polls after her performance last night. And Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York, he really took it because hecklers came after him. These are, my understanding, New York City firefighters and policemen who actually made the trip to Detroit just to heckle him over the death of Eric Gardner 5 years ago. Remember, he was the man who was put in a stronghold by a city police after they accused him of selling illegal cigarettes, and he apparently had an asthma attack and died, and that police officer who was under investigation is still on the job. So,
Right.
De Blasio not popular in his own city.
Rachel Sutherland joining us, Fox News Radio, live from Capitol Hill, KIDO Talk Radio. You go back to de Blasio, and I'm thinking if I'm Joe Biden, Bill, if you want to join the panel, go ahead, but he used all of his time to go directly after the vice president several times, saying, "You didn't answer my question." I thought that was a little odd as well.
Yeah, I thought it was too. One other person who had a pretty good night was Senator Cory Booker. He went after Joe Biden on criminal justice reform in a 1994 crime bill, and when the vice president tried to fire back there, he said something to the effect, "We have a saying in my town, you're dipping into Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor." I think that Cory Booker appeared the most relaxed on stage. Everybody else seemed a little uptight last night, little stiff and rehearsed or something. But Cory Booker was natural, and it seems like the ones that are not front runners are a little more chill than the ones that are. Tulsi Gabbard is another case in point.
Yeah, I would say it was almost impossible for Joe Biden to really survive that night. Everybody went after him. Even Kristen Gillibrand, who came out and saying she's a beneficiary of white privilege, Cloroxing the White House.
Yeah, that was a good line.
She's got money, she's got charisma, but she really needed a breakout performance. I'm wondering if she's maybe fourth or fifth or maybe third behind Booker, Harris, and probably Biden. Your thoughts?
Yeah, she hasn't been polling very strong in the polls. She came into the race with a ton of money and a lot of support, but there's so many candidates that really is hard to get a word in edgewise. She also went after Joe Biden on a statement he made, I guess, decades ago about women working outside the home, but he seemed prepared for that one this time instead of the last time with Kamala Harris and the busing attack. So he seemed prepared. He was able to finesse his way around that one. But Kirsten Gillibrand, we'll have to see how the polls shape up in the coming weeks, and it'll be tough for these candidates, all of them, to get back on stage in September because the qualifications practically double. Going back to where some of these people are in the polls, I'm not even seeing Kirsten Gillibrand really in the top even 10 at this point. Tulsi Gabbard polling around 1%. So Kirsten Gillibrand's got a lot of work to do if she wants to get on that stage.
And finally, I bet Tulsi Gabbard's Google ratings go up mysteriously.
Probably, yeah. Some people may be wondering who she is. She's also interesting. She talks about her service in the military and how we need to stop getting into unnecessary wars.
Right.
I think that would go over well with people.
Well, after her $50 million lawsuit filed against Google.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Rachel, we appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Kevin.
I know he's busy. Let's get right to Doug, Mountain Home, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Yeah, good morning. Busy, dude, just sitting there listening about them brat kids that everybody's been talking about that ain't got no brains because they didn't get their butt beat when they were kids. Hey, I got a question for you. Last night I was listening to Lars Larson, Kevin. I know you talk to him quite often.
We'll be talking to him today, actually.
Okay, well, I was trying to get on his show last night on his Twitter poll question, and it was about turning over our public grounds to private landowners, and he's all for it. He ain't got a clue about what's going on. I'm sorry to say. I used to think we needed to do that, but no. It's our public ground, mine, yours, Lars Larson's, everybody's public ground. They have just got these little brat kids that you guys are talking about through the years have got the control and the jobs, and I guess from what I take, you correct me if I'm wrong, did they just appoint a new director of the BLM, Kevin?
I'll have to take a look at that, actually.
Well, anyway, he was, what I gathered, what Lars said they did, and he's saying that, the Constitution says the government isn't supposed to own any property besides naval, yards and arsenals. And he's right, but we the people, and that's what everybody that called in, he says naysayers go to the front of the line on the polls. Everybody that called in was a naysayer, and I couldn't get on there. And he argued the point about, not making no money on the ground. And I grant you, they don't know how to manage their own rear end with both hands, let alone our public grounds. But turning it over to private entities is not it. You'll have people just like J.R. Simplot, the Wilk brothers, the Nature Conservative, the people that came up with Agenda 21. They're the ones that will own it. Me and you will no longer be on it. So you just tell him that. Tell him to look up who owns Nature Conservative, the Nature Conservative, what they've done in the state of Montana. I was over there and worked. I felled timber for 26 years. I've been out in this stuff on our ground all my life, trapping, hunting. It's our ground, not private entities. Right now, you can't even get into the Waihees off the fronts going up through there because they got it shut off right alongside the road. Public land's right behind it. You can't get to it. They won't let you. Private landowners. There you go. So I've said my piece.
Right. Thank you, Doug.
If you talk to him, thank you. Thanks for the show.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Liberty Linda, Hank, hang on. You're next. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Let's go to the phones. Hello, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. I am certainly happy I am a Republican. Many of these Democrats running for president have worked for and represent some of the states that have the worst problems in our nation. Washington State, New York City, California, Colorado, to name just a few. And so I do still believe that Biden will win amongst them and go up against our president. But, Kevin, I think that all of these Democrats running for president are socialist globalists. That's my opinion, my personal opinion. And any one of these Democrats get in, we will not have a United States of America anymore. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. They all believe in climate control or climate change, excuse me, and they're all globalists as far as I can see. It was difficult listening to that last night. I don't know if you felt the same way I did.
It was. It really, and I thought, well, one of the things that I liked about it was that they outed themselves about how much they hate the police, about how much they're going to make sure the due process doesn't happen. And we're going to go back to the days of vilifying police officers, from Julian Castro to Kamala Harris to all these people. And I got to tell you, Congresswoman Gabbard, when she went after Kamala Harris for, talking about prosecuting people for marijuana, and then all of a sudden joking about it, I thought that was a very relevant point last night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying.
I mean, you can't sit back and talk about being a law enforcement officer, and anybody in law enforcement, they will tell you about the pride that they have with that, and then all of a sudden joke about being a dope smoker.
And there doesn't seem to be any respect for our police officers anymore, the way they're dumping water on them. How can we do that? These are the people that are protecting us. They're
right.
Going out and putting their lives on the line for us. We have to have respect for them. And I've met many of them. and they are wonderful, wonderful men and women. And everything seems to be turned around today, opposite of what it should be. And I'd like to get back to the way we used to be here in this country, where we have respect for others and we don't have so much hate for one another. I don't hate anyone. I don't even want to hurt anyone's feelings. And we hear so much hate today, and I wish we'd stop that in our country. Talk about basic issues that our country needs that will benefit everyone. So basically, Kevin, I say, may God bless our President Trump.
And God bless you, Liberty Linda. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. All right. Hank in Boise. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning. I'll make a couple points. First point is this. Going back to LBJ and the Great Society, we spent millions of dollars for urban renewal and urban renewal projects and improving the inner core cities. And Baltimore was one of those cities that was slated for massive overhaul among cities. What happened to all those billions of dollars? And we were supposed to, under Obama, have this big infrastructure thing, and what happened to all that money? I mean, that's and then you were talking earlier. Point number two, you were talking earlier about these liberals, for instance, believing in an alternative universe, and sort of like the kid that always is changing the rules, like one of your callers said, and everything else. But hell, we got a mayor here in Boise, and probably a majority of our population in the Boise North End, bounded also by the first bench to the south, that believes in this stuff. If you're following their voting patterns and behavior, and what happens to our town or our city if we have several mayors like Peter? We could have the same sort of money disappearing. I mean, you talk about $80,000 for Be Kind. Shoot, we get 20 or 30 years of Democrat mayors. That's going to be peanut money, the way that they're going to be spending money. So, I mean, I'll leave those thoughts. I mean, it's
really, where's the opposition?
Yeah, and we got a Boise State.
Where's the opposition in local media? Hank, it's you and me. It's this show. Everybody else, they're Be Kind to Beater. Nobody covers him objectively. Certainly not the print publications. Certainly not the radio stations. This is if you want expression, it's it right here. That may be self-serving, but it's true.
Well, I think, unfortunately, you're absolutely correct. It may be self-serving, but I think you're right on the button. Unfortunately, I mean, I wish that there was, but I mean, it was it's the same thing. The awe that they hold for Beater is sort of like the awe that the national media had for many years for Governor Cecil Andrus. I mean, he walked on water. So I mean, it's unfortunate, and we got an institution we're paying tons of money, and students are going bankrupt for student loans. Boise State, which skews a lot of this stuff. So I mean, on taxpayer money and student fees.
Modern day indentured servitude. Hank, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.